Hello, everybody, and welcome to the world's favorite youth baseball podcast, Clearing the Bases, featuring Coach Jimmy Filangeri. I'm David Friedman. I want to thank you for coming along this ride with us. How are we doing today, Coach?
Doing good today, Dave. Now that the rain has stopped.
Well, for the moment, yeah, something near and dear to my heart because we have had rain. I think somebody told me it was 7 Saturdays in a row up here in New York. I know for the league that I'm playing in, we got rained out 3 weeks in a row. And since we were almost certainly getting rained out yesterday, we actually played a game Wednesday night because it was the start of playoffs. And for my team, it was also the end of the playoffs. And so my season is kaput.
Well, I guess you got to look at the bright side. I mean, you were in the playoffs, okay? So, that's...
Yeah. It may have been a situation where every team made the playoffs. That's indeterminate at this point. But
I gave you an opportunity there to just agree with me.
Yeah, I got a full disclosure.
This weather wreaked havoc on our fall baseball season. We finally got through it. That just ended on Thursday. So that's over with. But yeah, the weather here has been crazy.
So fall baseball for high school, and I know there's plenty of teams that don't really do anything, depending on the size of the school and the number of kids that they can even get out because the kids are playing football. Plus, a lot of kids play travel ball. So we can have some difficulties there fielding a team. What did you wind up doing in terms of, did you just do inter squads? I mean, I know, your school team is enormous between freshman, JV, and varsity. Did you just do inter squads? Did you actually get a few games in? How did that work?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. Mostly inter squads with a few games sprinkled in. I believe there were maybe 4, maybe 5 games. But in the fall season, I love the idea of the inter squads because everybody's playing. All your pitchers are throwing, all your hitters are hitting. So I like it, and it works out well.
That's good. You really get to see not only you get to see what you're working with. Like you said, when you can do something like that, get more kids on the field at the same time, you're able to see twice as many kids at any given time as you normally would be able to. So that should be very good. It's is there any challenge in terms of getting the kids, how should I say this, to take it as seriously as they would as if they were playing an outside team?
That's a great question because what we do is for our inter squads, we actually bring in regular umpires. So we try to create that feel of a regular game. And, it works out. It works out great.
Well, they should, because they should know that every time, listen, my opinion as a coach, every time you step on the field, you're playing for your spot.
Yeah.
Not to put life or death stress on anybody, but there's no reason why you can't lose your standing in fall ball.
There's no doubt about it. And as a matter of fact, there was one day where that was the first thing that I talked to the team about when I got them all together. I said, because, it didn't seem to me that they understood what you just said, that every time you step on this field, you're actually, and, the funny thing about it too is that there are cuts after the fall. We had 31 kids. I would say probably somewhere in the area of 10 of them are going to get cut. And I just had to bring it to their attention that I didn't see the intent. I didn't see the hustle. I didn't see I want this.
Yeah, when complacency, right? Kids can develop that complacency. If I was number 2 for shortstop last year and the senior graduated, it's my spot.
Right.
And not so fast, my friend. That's not how that should work.
Right. Well, what's funny is I really laid it on with the seniors because they were the ones that really pissed me off the most was you guys are seniors. You guys are supposed to be the leaders. You're supposed to be showing the younger guys how to act, how to go through this and how serious they should take this. I said, you guys are the biggest clowns on the field. I said, get it together. You guys are the leaders. you should be making sure that the younger guys are not doing it. Meanwhile, you guys are leading the pack.
Right. Lead by example, or you got to get off the field. I mean, that's part of your job. Sorry, whether you wanted it or not, part of your job is to lead by example. And you should always want that job. And if you didn't want that job, then you don't have that. I don't think you have the proper competitive spirit to put this team where it needs to be.
Exactly. And I mean, they should also take the attitude that, hey, our team was X amount of wins, X amount of losses last year. We have new guys coming in, and the stronger we can make them, the more disciplined we can make them, the more they understand what it takes to compete is only going to make us better next year. So they actually have an interest in that.
Right. You would think.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it's then that is our job as coaches to make sure that they do understand that. Now, you shouldn't have to say it every 15 minutes. It should be, maybe we say it, and then maybe we need a reminder after some period of time goes by of like, okay, you guys, you were doing really well. Now I see us kind of falling back into that bad habits or that lackadaisical attitude. So you know what? It's one of the things I said to one of my teams is we can either be the best conditioned team, so I'm going to run your asses off this field, or we can be the most sound skills wise, the most sound playing team. It's up to you.
Right. Right. Yeah, but I mean, I will say once I had that conversation with them, I did notice from that point on and it wasn't that much longer, it was maybe a week and a half. That was a week and a half before the season ended. But I did notice a little bit of a change in them where they did stop fooling around as much and they were serious. So I don't know. Maybe it got inside a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Sure, it had some impact. So, and speaking of having an impact, so we got a question in from one of our longtime listeners. And we've actually had him on the show, on our Parents Involved show. Mr. Richard Akers sent us a question that him and another dad had been talking about at, I think they were at a travel tournament with their kids, and talking about, why wouldn't high schools and either the high school set it up themselves or the head coach of the high schools try to set up a feeder system for their team in terms of, and he didn't give a lot of detail, but you and I spoke about it offline. More than likely something where, hey, if we can get these kids at, I mean, maybe not 7, but, somewhere prior to 12, if we can get these kids into our program and have a series of coaches who are something we talk about all the time, coaching the coaches, have the coaches set up so it's our program so that by the time they get to us at our age, whether it be even modified ball, much less the freshman JV range, where they should be ahead of the curve, ahead of what we've been seeing over the last couple of years in terms of development, because we're not seeing it because so many travel teams just focus on playing games and playing in tournament and not, maybe developing their superstars better, but not necessarily developing the whole team better. So what do you think of the idea of a feeder system, which obviously you're going to love the idea, but how practical is it to think that could really be put into place?
Well, let's face it. I mean, years ago, it used to be your little leagues were your feeder system for your high school teams. That's gone away. The little leagues have been, as we've talked about a million times, have been decimated. So there's really not much there for the high school coach to go after. And I don't see how it's practical that he could go around to every single travel team that has kids from his town to try and help to develop these kids to bring them in. So I think that maybe the way it has to be done is start with your modified program. So that's what, 7th and 8th graders, right?
Right.
Very simple. Just have them come to your practices along with the coaches, bring the team to the practice, watch the practice. This will begin to set the culture that we talk about. They'll see how the practice is done, how everyone's behaving, and it'll start that system.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely seems like a good idea to get this started. I think I've talked about it on the show before, where the local high school here where we live, the coach had opened it up for the several different towns to come and at least do like a coaching the coaches type of seminar. The kids weren't there, but at least the coaches were there. So that was a baby step. This would be a good natural next step. I think if you could actually have people come and watch how the practices are actually run is a lot better than just a classroom of, hey, here's what we're going to do. Let's see it in action and see if it works. That seems like a natural progression on that idea.
Yeah. And I mean, I also think along with bringing them to your practices, if you speak to the modified coaches and you say, hey, guys, look, we have a game Friday night. Why don't you bring the team, let them sit, let them watch the game, let them see how we run a game. All of this, what I'm trying to get at is I think the way you build it is you have to build that excitement in those younger players that they can't wait to get to be with the big guys, where the big guys are. So if you show them that by watching the varsity team, that practices are different. There's no fooling around. Every minute is involved with doing a drill, and there's no downtime. If you show them that it's a different animal than what they're used to, coming from Little League or whatever travel they were to see what a varsity game is like. I think that then you'll start to get that fight and that drive.
Yeah, seems like it. Seems like it should be a good idea. Now, taking that to the next step of actually running more or less a travel program, I think that's where you're going to see a serious fallout, because that obviously, as well as anybody, how much time, effort, energy, money that costs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and the other thing too, Dave, the time, the money, all of that stuff. The thing that, and we've talked about this many times early on, I mean, it's been probably a couple of years since we really talked about it. It presents a whole different set of issues when you start doing that, because now people feel that, well, I have to play for this travel team, otherwise I'm not going to make future teams as my kid goes through high school, whatever it be, freshman, JV, varsity. And so-and-so is starting at a certain position because he plays on the team, but my son doesn't play. I mean, I can keep going. You know what the problems are. That's why I'm not a really big fan of that.
Okay, so more of just incorporating what you're already doing, kind of incorporating that in with the town programs, then actually starting up something from scratch.
Right. And I mean, let's face it, we always talk about educating coaches. So the more let's face it, the varsity coach, it's his program. Okay. So he's in charge of JV, he's in charge of freshmen. The more that he could talk to the modified coaches, 7th and 8th grade, and I don't want to say educate them, but bring them up to speed on as far as what he's doing in his program, and basically help the modified coach to build his program, I guess, in a mirror image of what he's doing.
Right. And then hopefully it's kind of the trickle down theory or trickle back up theory, I guess. Again, as we've discussed, and plenty of the guests that we've had on the show, again, lamenting the state of youth development and how much harder it is for coaches at the level that we've been at, junior high or junior varsity, that having to go over some day one type stuff as opposed to being able to just refine things and work on more advanced plays and signs and things like that.
Sure. And the other thing, too, that they could do at the high school level is they could run like camps and clinics for the younger kids, for the 7th and 8th graders. Have them come in just so that they could see what will be expected. Obviously it's going to be a little watered down from what it normally is, but at least give them a taste of it. And again, like I said, just to try and get them to have that desire to, wow, I can't wait till I get to, high school so I could play like the big guys do. Have your varsity players work with these kids and be part of the camp and do it that way. That's another way to get guys to get guys interested in your program.
Right. Right. And as a coach, why wouldn't you want to go that route unless you're just going to put the blinders on and I know what I'm doing and I'm better than that guy and this is, just keep plowing ahead.
Yeah, I think that would be a mistake. I mean, the coaching staff, and it should be all the way from modified up to varsity, that coaching staff should be a family. There should be coaches meetings. They should talk to each other. They should, bounce ideas off each other so that everybody's getting better. And again, I feel that that's the way your program is going to be stronger.
Sure. I don't see any way that it couldn't be. You want to keep all that stuff consistent. Now you've got your feeder system and, maybe that helps the modified coach to not have to focus on just teaching basic baseball one-on-one stuff. And now as a freshman coach or a JV coach, now you don't have to focus on just teaching so much of the basic one-on-one stuff and on up there. So yeah, no, it should help. It could even help revitalize part of the Little League program. I know this maybe is pie in the sky thinking, but it could help revitalize if the kids and if the parents of the kids, because at that age, it's more the parents of the kids know that this is what is going to be expected of you and this is what we're going to work on. And as the kids learn how to play the game better, they become better. They should enjoy it more. It all feeds off itself.
Yeah. And I kind of think that Rick might have been alluding to doing it outside of the school in terms of building a feeder program. And nowadays, I just don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it certainly can build some conflicts because of the kid that was on that travel team versus not on the travel team. So now, if you're going to do something like that and you put out there, okay, it has to be somebody that lives within our school district. Well, if you get 9 guys, you can't run a travel program with 9 guys, right? Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to have to miss because of a whatever event, family event, vacations, whatever. So you have to build up. So now you're looking at pulling either kids that don't play for the school, or you have to go outside the area, or you're going to have kids on there that, they're not going to be at the same level.
Right.
That what you're looking for. And that's not to say you need everybody at the highest level. The point of this team should not be to go to undefeated, which is another challenge. Again, coaches kind of egos getting in their own way, or parents, sometimes it's even worse, the egos of, I don't want to have my kid play for a team that's going to go get their brains beat in every week, which obviously we understand.
Right. But
if you got to pull up a couple of kids that just aren't at that level of talent, they're not necessarily going to get that much. If they, if they're behind and the ball's just getting blown past them, or, they're just not capable, they're a catcher, but they're not capable of catching at this level, or whatever the case is, there's only so much work that you can do on that. So yeah, I mean, it definitely, there's like most things in life, a lot of pluses and minuses to it. It's an interesting theory. It's potential for it to work, but a lot of roadblocks, and you'd have to have some serious buy-in kind of from day one,
right,
from the community.
Right. So I guess if I had to sum it up, I would say try and keep your feeder system within your school district, work with your modified team, your freshman team, your JV team, and work it that way and do the best you can. And again, it's got to come from the top down. Okay. So the varsity coach has to work with his JV, with his freshman, and with his modified coach in meetings, correspondence, any way you can to make sure everybody's on the same page, and then you build a good program that way.
Sure. And then, I guess you could make it mandatory, but I guess it would be more of strongly suggest that all of us coaches have to participate in the town program, essentially, or in the, some kind of a town program to help, because that's really what we're talking about is, again, as we've talked about it, by the time they get to the JV level, or if you even on the freshman team, if your foundation is not good at that point as a player, you're so far behind the 8 ball.
Exactly. Yeah. So I agree with that. I mean, if the more knowledgeable coaches you could get involved with the town baseball, of course, it's going to definitely have a positive effect.
It should. It should. If everybody can put their egos aside.
No doubt.
So, all right. Good discussion. You guys can let us know. Definitely drop us a line and let us know what you think. What's your opinion? How well could that work? What type of system would you like to see in your communities? And is it something that would you be comfortable even approaching your varsity coach about starting up if they don't already? Let us know. Also, do you have this type of thing going on in the system? Are the coaches seeing the benefit or the theoretical benefits, and then if it's been in place for any time period, are you seeing some benefits of that? That would be, I'd love to hear about that. You can reach us at clearingthebases@gmail.com. That's our email address. You can follow us on the socials, Facebook, Twitter /X. We're at the CTB show or Clearing the Bases on Facebook. So yeah, let us know what you guys are thinking, what's happening out there. And you ready to get on to our special guest, Jimmy?
Absolutely. This is going to be a good one, Dave. And, the funny thing about it is it came to us in a little bit of a strange way. I received an email from, I guess she's a publicist, and she wanted to have a certain guest come on the show. And when I saw what it was about, I declined. And I sent her an email back and said, thank you so much for thinking of us, but I don't think this is a fit for our show. And that was kind of it. Well, maybe a day or so later, I got an email back. She said, you know what? I have a perfect guy for you. And she said, how would you like to get Wayne Mazzoni on your show? And boom, shot right back, said, I'm very familiar with Coach Mazzoni. Yes, set it up. And next thing you know, he's coming on the show.
Yeah, so looking forward to having this conversation with him. I think that, again, with his background, he has a hell of a lot that he should be able to share with us and our listeners. So without further ado, here's Coach Wayne. So how are we doing tonight, Coach?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we really appreciate you spending some time with us here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Wayne. We really appreciate it.
Anytime talking baseball and sports is awesome.
I can't say I disagree with that. So, just so everybody out there gets an idea, Coach Mazzoni is a coach, an author, public speaker, and this is going to take me a little bit to run through here. He's the former coach of Nova Southeastern University, Fairfield University, Post University, College of the Holy Cross, and Sacred Heart University. But, Coach, you spent most of your time at Sacred Heart?
Yeah, I spent 16 years, so 2007 to 2022, all at Sacred Heart.
Okay. You've also been a speaker at over 500 high schools, coaches conventions, and athletic director conventions. That's pretty impressive. That's a lot.
A lot of time in the car right there. A lot of time in the car.
Yeah, I see that. Wow. You're also the author of 5 books. So Get Recruited, The High School Athlete's Guide to College Baseball, You versus You, The Athlete's Instruction Book, and The Athletic Recruiting and Scholarship Guide. Again, very impressive.
So we could get into those after, but the reality is they pretty much all came from me. This is a lot of them were written prior to, internet, cell phones, all that. But I'd be on a bus ride and the kids would be studying and I'd be bored out of my mind and I would write. So I made use of the time. It's more something to do than, that I'm a prolific writer. So.
Well, I mean, either way, it's still pretty impressive. I don't think I could write like half a book. So what I want to do here is we're going to kind of like break this up into like 2 segments, we'll call it. First, I want to get into a little bit about pitching because you are a pitching coach. And then I want to get into the recruiting stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
So let's start with, what do you feel are best practices for developing arm strength and velocity?
Okay, so I think it comes down to the best way to develop anything. If the three of us wanted to get faster, there's a lot of things we could do. Running hard and running fast is the best thing we can do. So I think it's pretty safe to say throwing the ball hard all the time, whether that's old school high arced long toss or just throwing it hard. And to me, plyo balls and drive line, all that is, for the most part, a similar concept. It could just be done inside against a wall. But bottom line is, to develop velocity is using the arm, and it's also getting the body stronger. And then, of course, mechanical and efficiency. If you're strong and you throw baseballs all day, but you're not moving properly, you're not going to throw to your peak potential. So I certainly see that a lot now. Kids that are stronger than ever, but still don't throw efficiently and therefore don't throw to their potential.
Right. So now you had mentioned long toss. I'm a big proponent of long toss. So yeah, that's my feeling with that, is that long toss actually teaches you how to move, because that's a great part of it. And then being that I always felt that it's kind of free and easy. I don't feel it putting much strain on the arm. And I think it's a good way to build velocity. But let's move in a little different direction, because again, I think this is important. Velocity does you absolutely no good if you can't command your pitches.
Listen, how much time do we have on this podcast? Because the reality is, let's not kid ourselves. It's always been, it is now, it probably always will be, that velocity is what moves you up levels. Okay, so you want to play in the big leagues, you got to have some velocity. You want to play at the high levels of college, you got to have some velocity. However, that doesn't mean you get people out. I mean, coaches certainly in college, if the three of us were coaching a game and our starter was getting tired, we wouldn't say, hey, who's in the bullpen that throws the hardest that we're going to bring in? We would say, who's the best guy to bring in to get outs? And it may be the hardest thrower. It may not be the hardest thrower. So I just had a conversation with a college coach today, and he basically said, I am sick of watching the high velocity kid without feel, without command of three pitches. What I want is the guy that has that, because here's what I know. In college, you'll gain 2 miles an hour per year, basically, just by maturing. So he'd rather have the pitchability than the velocity right off the bat. And, we talked prior to starting the recording here about Charlie Costello, who I recruited at Sacred Heart before I left, who was exactly the poster boy, 81, 83, but throw any pitch at any time. Now he's mid to upper 80s, and maybe he now is, not only is he a key guy at their program, but he might have a chance to play after college.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer, and I've seen it, because especially at the younger ages, 14, 15, 16 years old, these kids want to impress everybody by throwing the ball through a brick wall. My feeling is that, number one, we have to develop control and command, okay? And number two, which I believe is very important, and I hope you agree with me, because I want you to elaborate on this a little bit, is a changeup. The kids have to develop a changeup. So when I have my pitchers, when we're doing our catch play, everybody has a changeup grip and is throwing changeups. What do you think?
Oh my God. So I've said this before, I'm going to repeat what I've said in other venues. If I had a dime for every time a kid told me he's working on his changeup, they're all working on it and none of them are throwing it in the game. So very few, 1 out of 10 kids will actually bring that changeup into a game. So the bottom line is, it's a pitch that they have to constantly work on. Just as you mentioned, you have to throw it all the time to get feel of it. And I would say to a kid, listen, put the fastball in your hand on a 1 to 10 scale. How does that grip feel? And they almost always say 9 or 10. And then I say, put the changeup grip in your hand. How does that feel? Well, that's a 4 or 5. Well, then how is it? How are you going to trust throwing that in a big spot if you don't like the grip? So I would tell kids, watch TV, hold the changeup, get comfortable with it, play catch with it, throw it a million times. I mean, the art of developing pitches, especially the changeup, is lost for a lot of reasons, but it needs a lot of reps, a lot of reps. I'm talking 500 reps a week. I'm not talking 60 feet, 6 inches at full intensity, but you could play catch with it 100 times a day to get the feel of it. And you're going to need a change up eventually. If you want to pitch at a high level, you're going to need a change up.
Yeah, and I feel that the changeup, like you just said, yes, it's hard to develop. So if you don't start at an early age and getting things right, yeah, then like you said, you're going to have to eventually do it, and might as well get that out of the way.
Yeah, and this is probably not the platform for it, but I find there's two camps of changeups, and one of them is kind of the circle pitchfork, where it's more of the finesse pronating type of changeup, which is the best one probably. But if you haven't learned it early, it's tough to come in later in your life and pick up that finesse changeup. But then you also have really what are kind of mini split fingers that are more of wrist snap. Those is the predominant changeup I would teach the pitchers in college who never walked in the door with one, because they can get the feel of that pitch much quicker with wrist snap than the pronating one.
That does make a lot of sense.
Well, thank you.
I just think that's really important. I don't think enough coaches put enough emphasis on it. Again, I'm talking about coaches before the college level. They're breaking balls, fastballs. I mean, I even tell my players sometimes, I don't even want you throwing a damn breaking ball. Go out there. I want to see your fastball. I want to see your changeup. I don't care if you get smacked all over the park. I don't care. Let's start working on it. And,
yeah, that was one of the things I really enjoyed about, college baseball is the fall season. So in the fall, most of the time you're playing inter squads, right? You're playing against your own team. And that would mean that the pitching coach is generally the umpire. So I'm standing behind the pitcher and I'm watching how he interacts with the catcher and pitch selection and whatnot. And there would be times on certain guys that I would say, I'd bring the catcher out to the mound and say, this whole inning, I don't want anything but a changeup. You could use shakeoffs, but let's develop the changeup. You've already established your place on the team. You're going to have a role in the spring. So don't worry about if you get hit around. I'll just go tell the head coach we worked on the changeup all in. But you have to put that work in, and you have to be able to fail in a comfortable situation to develop it.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about multi-sport athletes, because I know you were one, and I want to know how you feel about that.
You're asking awesome questions. This is already, you're hitting all the right things. And again, I was on the phone with a college coach today at Occidental College out in California. So one of the players I'm working with is interested in that school. I didn't really know much about it. I'm going to call this coach. I did kind of what you did to prep for this. I looked at the guy's bio. The guy played football and baseball in college. Okay. So I, as sort of my introduction, just said, hey, coach, this is neat to talk to you because you're a two-sport guy. I played two sports in college. My son is now playing baseball in college, probably only. He might add football in. But anyway, we got onto this topic again today. And I still think most people, whether it's older, I'm in my 50s, or whether it's coaches, it's a very rare to find a coach in any sport, even in baseball, that doesn't think a kid should be a multi-sport athlete. I think they feel it's better. You learn spatial awareness, you learn camaraderie, you learn toughness, you learn because by the time you get to college, if you're good enough to get there, you'll play one sport. I mean, 99.9% of the time. Now, we could talk how that's come about, how the change has come about, because I like looking at that. It wasn't, in Dave, when you graduated, college in the 90s and played in the 80s, you and I are about the same age. Everybody played multiple sports. What do you mean you're going to play one sport year round? What are you, crazy? What's wrong with you? But so we've gotten here, not from bad intentions. The money trail is how you could see it. It's not that it's evil. The people aren't evil. Ooh, we're trying to get everybody to quit sports and make money. But it's been that people are focusing on one sport now. And still a lot of kids are doing the multiples, but more and more kids are playing one sport only.
Yeah, we talk on the show all the time about following the money trail when it comes to a lot of how what's considered what just customary and normal today, that we would have been shocked at when we were growing up. And I mean, the beginning is not, definitely the money has something to do with it. It's just the raw fact that when we were growing up, baseball started in April, maybe March. I'm from the Northeast. And I don't know if you're from up here as well. Yeah.
Same,
so
yep.
We started in March, towards the end of March, and, All-Stars like the Little League World Series just finished. So that's the end. That's it.
Right.
And there was only two teams that were there. So most teams are done first week in July, even if you make All-Stars. So that's it. And then maybe, you played pickup games with your friends, but that was it. But now it's 11 and a half months out of the year. So when are you playing that other sport? And how do you suggest to the kids that you're working with and the seminars that you do, like, how do you cope with that kind of the fear, what the kids say, FOMO, fear of missing out on this baseball team when I'm going to play football over the summer and the fall and basketball over the winter?
So a couple things. First of all, you said something, the pickup games, what a lost art. I mean, that was my childhood, playing stickball, playing pickup games. Hey, but guys, I'll meet you at the field tomorrow. No coach, no lesson. Even kids I work with now, they're like, hey, can you do a lesson with me with live at-bats? I go, how about you just go to the field and just have fun? Like, what do you need me for? You know what I mean? So bottom line is the pickup games is something that's near and dear to me. I look at it this way. Anyone playing a second sport, whatever it is outside of baseball, you certainly can still find extra time in soccer season and football season and basketball season to take some swings in a cage, to get some bullpens in. You could still do it. Come on. You absolutely could. And you don't need to do it the way, only. So in other words, to just play baseball all winter, yeah, you'll get better. But would you really be hampered if you played basketball and then did a little baseball on the side? I don't think so. Now, we could talk about if you're a 3-sport kid. I mean, how many 3-sport kids do you know that like legit at the high school, like they'll play soccer, basketball, and baseball? That's like a needle in a haystack. And that I understand because that's really demanding in the modern world. But there's no way a 2-sport kid can't get enough baseball in or play baseball and get enough soccer in. It's definitely doable.
Well, I think that they need that break, not only from the physical aspect, but more importantly, from the mental aspect of it. I think they need that break. They need something to, just focus on something different. And, then when that season's over, come back and we're ready to roll again.
Yeah. And I think we all know this as coaches, parents, etc. The number one skill that you want any player to have is competitiveness. It's going to win out over everything else. And when you play one sport and you're in training mode, you probably just don't compete enough, especially if you're a pitcher only. So you got to put competition in there. I tell my guys that have become just a pitcher only. Like, I don't play ping pong, play pool, shoot hoop, like compete, dude. Compete. Even if that's your workouts, there's got to be competition.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so now we're going to run into a little bit about the recruiting end. So the first thing I think what we need to do is to make people understand the different levels in college baseball. So I'm not sure that people understand that there are Division III schools that will knock the crap out of Division I schools. Okay. And vice versa. But there are certain criteria that you have to meet to be that D1, D2, D3 athlete. And I don't think that I could explain it as well as you could.
Okay. So, boy, it's a really good question. The reality is college sports, and obviously we'll stick with baseball because you could talk basketball and football, which are their own animals and really different from most other sports. But there's really 2 levels of college baseball. The scholarship level and the non-scholarship level. So the scholarship level is Division I and II. That's where you can get money to play the sport, and therefore it puts completely different emphasis on the sport. So at the scholarship level, usually that means you're going to play more games. The season's going to be longer. You'll have a more intense fall season. You're allowed to basically be on the field more. And Division III, with no baseball money included, has less games, there's more rules that say you cannot practice 3 months in the fall. There's restrictions. Doesn't mean the kids don't care about it as much. They may do stuff on their own, but that really the difference in the levels by rule is whether you can get scholarship money to play and then your activities while you're at that school. Practice hours during the week, non-traditional seasons, the season itself, how many games, etc. That's really the difference in terms of on paper.
So if I'm a player and I believe I'm a Division I athlete, but actually I'm a Division III athlete, how is that distinguished between the two when you look at an athlete? Why is he D1? Why is he D3?
Okay.
And I'm kind of like trying to lead you in a certain direction here.
No, it's great. I think recruiting is very inexact, and the world of baseball is only getting more inexact because years ago, less kids playing, less teams. A coach would watch a kid play 5, 6, 7 games before making an offer. Now, there's so many kids in events and camps, it's difficult to do that. So you're going on less. So you'll talk to a college coach and he'll say, I don't really even know what I have in my recruiting class until I see him in the fall. Maybe the kid I gave 50% in a scholarship isn't actually as good as the kid I just offered a walk-on spot to. So you just don't know. You can't measure the work ethic, the heart, the sports IQ. Will the kid just want to go out and just, live it up in college? Or so a lot of times you just don't know. And the reality is beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So one coach could look at this kid and say, I just don't think he's that good. And the other coach could look at him and say, this is exactly what I want. I mean, a lot of times coaches recruit the way they played. So if they were a smaller guy that was a spark plug, that's what they want. If they were a bigger guy that mashed, that's what they want. It's not always the case. So I don't think from the outside looking in, you really can tell. And it's been proven since COVID, since the transfer portal, you see plenty of kids that were successful at a Division III level move up. They prove they can hit and get people out. They move up levels, and guess what? They still hit. They still get people out.
That's kind of like where I was going with it, because it is very hard to determine how a kid is going to perform at each level, how he's going to perform just in general. And if it's hard for somebody like you, somebody, some college coaches, it's hard to make that. How does a parent or a player know like what school he should be chasing?
Okay, very difficult. And this kind of a lot of answers to that. The bottom line is, at some point, somebody has to give you feedback who's experienced. Because unfortunately, the least experienced people are the parents. And for two reasons. One is love our kids. So you're always going to see your kid in a different light because you love your kid. But secondly, you're not watching the kids from California and Florida and Texas, and you're not seeing the entire recruiting pool. Yeah, your kid pretty good in high school, pretty good in summer, doesn't necessarily mean that makes them a Division I player. And this is kind of a perfect answer to this. I had a kid that I'm working with went to a camp at a Division I school, and the dad said to me, my son was definitely the best catcher. There were 12 catchers there. My son was the best catcher. I said, okay, I talked to the coach. I said, what do you think of so-and-so? He said he was definitely the best catcher at camp. Okay, so the coach saw it the same way the dad did. And then the coach said, but he's nowhere near as good as anyone we're looking for. So that day, that parent's going, well, my son's on the field, and he's not comparing to the college kids that are there. He's comparing them to the other recruits, and none of the catchers were good enough. And that's what happens sometimes. And that's why even in college level, the tryouts, they'll have open tryouts. At UConn, tremendous baseball school, they're going to have open tryouts. Well, a kid might go there with 20 kids and go, well, I was the best kid at the tryout. Yeah, but you weren't anywhere near the best kid that they actually have on the team. If you are, I'm sure the coach will invite you to continue on and playing in the fall. So the bottom line is they watch games on TV. Everything looks good on TV. I always thought I could rip Mariano Rivera when I was watching from my couch, but I can't, So until you actually go and see games in person, it's very difficult to judge the talent level, the talent level in Division I or Division III for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that's a really, and again, it always, I think that the point that you made about it, it depends really who you're competing against, really. Like you said, there a lot of times this happens in travel baseball where the kid is actually the best kid on a particular team, but that team is nowhere near as good as some other team. So where does he actually stand? And again, to your point, the parents will say, well, he's the best kid on this team, but all right, well, that team is not necessarily one of the best
Yeah.
barometers.
And that's why even sending video sometimes to college coaches or sending stats doesn't really win people over a lot, because you're like, well, hold on, who are they facing? Yeah, you struck out 11 in the game. I don't know, are those 11 kids that are going to go play in college or 11 kids that are going to play lacrosse next year? So like, you just don't really, and I'm not trying to be mean. Parents are lovely people, and sometimes you just don't know. And that's where, of course, metrics come in. Metrics don't really tell you if you can actually play the game, but you know what? It's better to run a 6.8 60 than a 7.8 60, right? It's better to have 95 exit velo than 85. Does that mean you can hit a 1-2 slider on the corner with pressure on? I don't know. But so that's why it's a taking in a lot of information before coaches make a decision.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring that out. I think it's important for people to understand that. Okay, so let's talk just again so people understand. We don't have to go into great detail. Just quickly about dead period, recruiting restrictions, that type of thing.
Okay, so for the most part, I would say all those recruiting rules, and up until last year, college coaches had a book, literally like the Bible thickness, that they would have to study and take a test and pass a test before they could recruit. The NCAA changed that a year ago, and they made it like you have to get a certain amount of rules education from your compliance person. And the reason I'm bringing that up is there are so many rules. I don't think high school kids and parents need to bother themselves with any one of them, except the new rule that got enacted recently, which is now restricting how early a kid can be recruited, right? So now they've made a date, which was August 1st, going into your junior year, when you're basically now allowed to be contacted by a college coach. So now that's confusing in certain ways, and I can repeat that if that didn't make sense. But what a lot of kids do, and parents, is they go, oh, my son's not being recruited because the college coaches can't call him yet. The first date they're allowed to, boy, we better get ready with the phone calls and emails. We might have, it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be like the draft. And then that day comes and no one recruits them or calls them or anything. So, but that's really the rule, that if I'm watching this and I have a high school, an 8th grader, a 9th grader, or a 10th grader, the rules now state it's not until August 1 going into your junior year that a college coach can actually call you and offer you and really initiate the recruiting process. And because here, I had kids prior to that rule. They're in 8th grade. They're 2027s. And they committed to Duke. Now they're big physical kids that are kind of freaks. I always say to people, that's what Mike Trout looked like when he was young. That's what these kids are. Most kids, are barely even putting on deodorant at that age, right? But these kids are really mature kids. But I think college coaches in general are happy that there's a uniform rule that says this is the time when recruiting starts.
Right. But players can contact coaches at any time. In other words, send them videos, send them,
Yeah, but you may not get a response if you're young.
Yeah, no, I'm not even talking about, 8th graders. I'm talking like, say, sophomores, or, if you have a really good freshman and maybe they want to start reaching out to coaches, look, here's the video of me now, whatever. I'll see you in a year and a half.
Right.
That type. But
Correct.
Players can't reach out to them.
Correct.
Okay. All righty. Let's go here. Camps, showcase, tournaments. What's the best way to go to get seen?
This is the way to look at it. At some point, every player has to really make some kind of a list of schools. That list can change, but if you don't have any list and you're just saying, there's 1,000 college baseball programs, they'll all find me somehow, it's not really going to happen. So what I try to tell people to do is, hey, let's start narrowing it down based on academics, right? What are your grades? What kind of student are you? Start narrowing it down based on things about regular college factors that normal kids would do. How far from home do you want to go to school? What size campus? Do you want 50,000 students, 20,000 students? Do you want to be in a city, in the suburbs? You start narrowing down what you want out of college just as a regular student. And then you add in the baseball piece. Are you a high-level Division I player, mid-level, low-level, Division II, Division III? And ultimately, let's say you're able to come up with 10, 12 schools that make a fit. When you have those 10 or 12 schools, now it'll be much easier to sort through all the chaos of camps and events and different things because you're narrowed your list down. So if you want to get seen by Johns Hopkins, great Division III high academic school in Baltimore, there's a place those coaches will go to recruit that would be different if you're trying to get seen by Boston College, or if you're trying to get seen by University of Chicago, or you're trying to get seen by Stanford. So the bottom line is it should be structured to that individual kid's ultimate goal.
That actually brings me into something that I want to get your opinion is find out what you believe you want to study. Do you think that that's probably the best thing is look at it academically first?
When you say academically, yes. When you say what they want to study, I'd say no, because your average kid probably has no idea, right? Or they're generally going to say business and then they might switch or whatnot. So now, if you're a high academic student, you're taking honors in AP classes and you have a high SAT and all, yeah, you're going to be pushing towards a certain set of schools. And if you are, and there's nothing wrong if you want to be an engineering major, you want to be pre-med, you want to study, certain things. Yeah, you need to target those schools that are good for that. Absolutely. But if you ask your average 9th and 10th grader, what do you want to study in college? They pretty much have no idea. They'll just tell you they want to play baseball, right? Or softball or whatever their sport, happens to be. So the bottom line is it's a work in progress. And the more you learn about yourself, the better. So if you take a kid to see NYU and they go, oh my God, I don't ever want to go to school in a city setting, you just shrank, you just eliminated 30% of the colleges. If they say, well, I want a smaller school, okay, the more stuff you start to get of their determining factors, the list shrinks down. And if sports is a piece of that, great. And it's trial and error. It's trial and error. A lot of kids that when I go out and do my speeches at high schools and I'm educating kids on the process, and I say, how many of you have been to more than 5 colleges? Very few raise their hand. If you're talking about the college process, you actually have to get out and look at schools. So I say to kids, if you're going up for Thanksgiving and you're going to go to Boston and see your aunt for Thanksgiving, go look at Wesleyan on the way in Trinity and UMass Lowell and Tufts and Babson and Brandeis, and go look at some schools. And then you'll start to get an idea, hey, I like this and I don't like that. And that'll actually help you when you go to use Naviance that schools use or College Board, or talk to a counselor or talk to somebody like me. Because the process is, if all of us just said, I want to do a job anywhere in the country, doing anything, any job, I don't care what the job is, it's an overwhelming job search. If you say, I want to teach school, and I'm a school teacher and I want to do it in Westchester County, well, guess what? The list starts to shrink and you can actually start moving things forward in the process. So some structure has to happen or you'll be lost. Unless you throw 95, or unless you drop bombs and you run like you're going to get overlooked.
Right. And those are the one-offs, really, right? The guys, I don't want to say one-offs, but those are the rare occurrences, right? The masses of kids that are getting recruited are, I don't want to say average baseball players. They're above average baseball players, but they're not, like you said, they're not pumping 95 to 98. So, everybody, everybody's wants to see this kid. You kind of have to get found, really.
Exactly. So you probably touched on this in one of your other podcasts at some point, I would assume. It's about an 8% chance to play college baseball. You have about an 8% chance to play college baseball. That means all these kids that want to play and all the seniors that are starting school right now, 92% of them are not playing college baseball. They're going to play club. They'll play intramurals. That's just numbers. It's not you just look at the participation rates. You could Google it. High school to college participation rate by sport. The overall average is 7%. Certain sports are higher, certain sports are lower. It's a very, very, very competitive thing that people are undertaking.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it many times where when you cut it down from, a youth baseball, there's like 16 million kids that are involved in, little league and, all of this stuff. High school ball, and again, our listeners are probably getting tired of hearing me say this, but I can't help it. I've got to say it again. High school baseball, there's only about 500,000 kids that even play high school. Forget about college, right? So again, it keeps getting whittled down and whittled down and whittled down, and yeah, it becomes very difficult. And the other thing that we talk about a lot also is as it gets whittled down, well, now all of those players are more and more at the same ability level. And, then, we're talking about different separators. In other words, you take all of the Division I athletes, what differentiates between the guy who's sitting on the bench and the guy who's starting every day is, well, it's usually something mental,
Absolutely.
Because the ability is there. So, yeah, I mean, I can keep on going, talking about this forever.
And I always remind people all the time, constantly. It's of course worse in the modern world with social media and the kids posting, and the kids are very stressed about recruiting, incredibly stressed. The parents are incredibly stressed about recruiting. And I just remind anyone watching, listening, my God, just play to enjoy it. Like, yes, there are things you can be doing to move it forward, but like you should want to get hits because you want to beat the pitcher. You shouldn't want to get hits because Rutgers there that day, right? You should just want to compete and just enjoy each day and have a plan to get better, constantly be developing, because if you do get a roster spot, you do get an offer, you don't walk into college as a freshman and everyone goes, Jimmy's here. Listen, I've been the starting shortstop. Hey, Jimmy, I played enough. Dude, you take my spot now. Welcome aboard. Good luck. Take my spot. No, you're the competition, right? And then if you do get a starting spot, you don't go play games and they go, oh, it's Jimmy's first season. Let's throw him a bunch of fastballs down the middle. Oh, they want to get you out. The competition, never really ends. So that's why I enjoy what I do in terms of recruiting, is to try to just give some structure so that you could lock back in and develop and have fun and know that you're doing the right things and you're not always playing for exposure. And too many kids just have it the wrong way. And I don't blame them. If I was playing in this modern world, I might think the same way. But the first college coach that ever saw Wayne Mazzoni play a baseball game was when I was in college. That's the only time, right? That was the first time a college coach saw me play. I can't imagine throwing bullpens with 50 college coaches watching me, So I don't envy them in some ways.
I mean, that's a really good point. I never thought of that, but yeah, you have all of those eyes on you. Yeah, it's kind of difficult. So I'm a high school player, and I'm not playing travel baseball. I'm only playing for my school. How does that affect him in terms of being recruited?
Okay, it's a tremendous question. The reality is this: if the kid's really good, he could still play, and the bottom line is going to have to connect the sides. How is the college coach who's in season while this kid's in season in high school gonna get seen? So the reality is that's why summer ball is everything, so to speak, because the college coaches have no one on campus. All they're doing is recruiting. So you kind of need to be on a travel team because that's the team you're going to be on to get seen and to go to these events and whatnot. I don't consider it more important. It just happens to be the timing works out to be better, right? So, bottom line is a rare kid these days isn't on a team outside high school that's playing in college. Very rare.
Yeah, I could see that. And again, that's why I was kind of curious about that, because again, like you said, the college coaches are in season. The high schools are in season. Well, when did they get to see you? And I guess that's probably, one of the biggest driving forces of why travel baseball showcases and all of this stuff has taken off the way it has, because that's the place you have to go to. And I guess people do.
Here's, one thing I think that, if you don't mind me interjecting here, is because people are so, understandably, when they think about recruiting, they think about it from their side. I think they don't realize how overwhelming it is to be a college coach recruiting. So let's take a mega program like a UConn. in the whole Northeast, that's, you could say Boston College's other good programs, Northeastern, but in the Northeast, UConn's got the best program. I know all the coaches, they're fantastic. There's 3 coaches that really recruit, sometimes a 4th. So in other words, look at all the high school baseball players we talked about, and how many coaches are responsible for evaluating and sorting through those? 3. Whew. Talk about stress. And there's Diamond Nation, and there's NEB, and then there's Atlanta, and there's Lake Point, and there's California. It's like, oh my God, how do I keep track of all these kids? All to bring in a class of 12 or 13 kids. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think people sometimes forget, oh, college coach didn't answer my email, and he didn't do this, and he didn't do that, and they're not coming to my games. Well, there's only so many recruiters out there for each school. And even when they're at Diamond Nation and watching a tournament, then they're like, oh my God, why did I go to Maine and look at this kid? Because I heard he's really throwing well. It's like, it's overwhelming. They don't realize how overwhelming it is. And it's something I don't mind being out of from college coaching, because it never gets put to rest. As soon as you get the 24 class, oh my God, what's going on with the 25 class? What's happening with the 26s? What's going on in the transfer portal? It's chaos. Always. Never stops.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it. I wasn't going to go there, but now I'm going to, because you mentioned it, the transfer portal. Okay, so this is pretty much within the last couple of years a relatively new part of the recruiting process.
Yes.
Talk about it a little bit.
So there's really a lot to it, because for a few things in terms of recruiting, but there's almost 4 or 5 types of people and situations in the portal, which I can get to in a minute. But previously, where if you were Marist College, if we were the 3 coaches at Marist College, and we were going to bring in 13 kids, if it was 2018, we would be bringing in 13 high school kids, maybe 1 JUCO transfer, maybe. Now, and I don't know how Marist does their business. I know Coach Ratchford and Cos are good guys. A lot of schools bring in half high school kids and half transfer kids. And why do they do that? Because the kid maybe has been proven at the college level. Maybe he's a Division III player. Maybe the coach recruited him, really liked them, and they went to another school and it's not really working out. So they said, I know this kid, I'll take. So some coaches are recruiting still the same way as always, taking all high school kids. Some programs are doing a split between transfer kids in high school, and some recruit exclusively out of the portal. I mean, it rankled a lot of people's feathers when LSU, who won the College World Series, the coaches were up on the podium and said, hey, look how we're doing it with these transfer kids. If you're out there and you want to play baseball at LSU, let us know. So it's almost like LSU is the big leagues of college baseball. So if you go to Villanova and you're their 4-hitter and you hit 20 home runs, well, give us a call at LSU and we'll bring you in. That's hurts a lot of coaches who are taking a chance on these kids, developing them, and then they leave. So I don't know how much you want me to get involved in talking about the different types of kids that are in the portal, who it works well for, who it doesn't, but it's changed the face of the recruiting process.
Yeah, and you touched on the one thing again, what you said about LSU, that's one of my problems with it. The other thing is that, and I guess it's part of me that kind of feels bad for some players, because they'll jump into the portal because maybe they don't like the kind of shoes that the coach is wearing. So they jump in the portal and then nobody picks them up.
Well, there you go. So you know it. So that's a group of the people in the portal is like, well, I'm not getting playing time and I'll just put in there and everyone will want me. I don't know. You haven't proven you could do it at that level. Unless someone has that track record of knowing you. And that's what I mean. When it was at Sacred Heart, I brought in kids from Dartmouth and UConn and different places who I was recruiting, offered them. They didn't pick our school. They went there and then they called me a year later and say, hey, you're still interested? And I would say, yeah, because I liked you then, still like you now. But if I don't know who you are and you don't have a track record, just as that kid you're mentioning, more likely than not, it's not going to work. And it even may not work if you're at a Division I school and you want to go play at a Division III school.
Right.
It's just because you drop a level doesn't mean the world's going to come running.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really kind of, I don't know, confused things, I'll say, over the last couple of years, because it's almost like free agency in college baseball.
So at the end of every season, a college coach has to find out who is leaving. So who is putting in, is it a disgruntled kid and not getting playing time and they expected it? And sometimes it's, hold on, this freshman who we didn't think was going to pitch a lot became our closer, but guess what? He comes in the door at the end of the season and says he's going in the portal, right? And then, so you don't know who's leaving. And then because of that, you're not exactly sure who you need to put, bring in. So a good friend of mine, coaching at a Division I school, I touched base with him in June. And I said, hey, I'd like to tell you about this 2024 kid I have. And he says, until June ends, we're recruiting on the computer. We're recruiting from the portal to solidify our class for fall of 23. In other words, who's going to be in our program this fall? And once we figure that out, we'll talk about the 24s who are coming in next fall. And I go, wow, he's right. He's got to figure out what's going on first for this year before he figures out what's going on for next year. And then that spirals. The kid leaves this program. That put a hole in that program, and it's a cycle. It doesn't stop. It's free agency and it's confusing.
So the portal is, I would say, a relatively new phenomenon. If you could just real quick maybe go through what is the kind of the order of operations. So does a kid have to decide he's leaving school A to go into the portal, or can they go into the portal, kind of fish around, and if they don't get anything, just go back to the school they were at? Like how does that work? All
right. So, this should be a good educational piece for people who don't know. You could always transfer previously. Since the NCAA started, you could leave. There was a bunch of rules depending how you left. Most often, you had to sit out 1 year. So a kid would have to be really miserable to want to go to a new school and give up a year.
Miss a whole year.
Exactly. So really, with the COVID situation is when they said, hey, let's waive that one-time transfer. So now you can leave in that situation. Now, what you asked, which is a fantastic question, is it's a case-by-case basis. So a coach may say to a player, hey, listen, the moment you put in the portal, I understand it, I find your replacement. There is no longer a spot for you here. Or it could be a situation where maybe the coach even says to the kid, hey, listen, put into the portal, I'll help you. I hope you could go play at this level. If it doesn't work out, I'd love to have you back. So there's no set rule. You don't put in the portal and you're automatically out of that school. But a lot of times it is. Typically, you are going to notify the coach, but that's another thing that's been changed with this new portal. You could just go to your compliance person and say, I'm leaving, and the next day you're in, and your coach wouldn't even know. So it used to be you had to go through the coach, and there was an appeal process and a whole thing, and now it's just easier to do it now. It doesn't mean it's less confusing.
Right. So theoretically, a kid could put his name into the portal, wait a couple weeks, not get any bites, pull his name out of the portal type of thing, and then just show up for day one of practice like nothing happened?
Yeah, his coach is probably going to know. His coach is going to realize that he was in there. But yeah, he could still return. Here's what happens a lot. Again, there's so many layers to this. As let's say you were, on my team, Dave, and we were giving you 35% of a baseball scholarship. Mm-hmm. And you come in and you say, Coach, I'm not happy. I'm thinking of leaving. I might say to you the following. I understand. I hope it works out for you. I'm happy to have you back if it doesn't. But the moment you go in that portal, your baseball money, I'm going to spend on somebody else. It's gone. Right. There'll be a place for you here, no hard feelings, but it'll be on your own dime because the money's gone. So there's a lot of that too.
Okay. Interesting.
And then the whole thing, which I don't think we want to get into here, which is the NIL money, which is now basically the money you could pay. And of course, that's like the kid Tommy Tanks, who went from NC State and had a tremendous freshman year and leaves to go to LSU, basically because they could give him an NIL package. So there's a free agent who got a better deal.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to get into that because I want to keep it a friendly and happy conversation. I don't want to get pissed off.
Get it? Yep. I hear you.
Oh God! All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on with JUCO post grad because this is another sore spot with me, and also about with reclassing.
Oh man, you're right on it with the questions. All right, so I'll give you, sort of a professional take, and then even like a personal take, and I feel like I'm speaking to the choir here, but back in my day of the 80s, like if you told me I had to leave my high school to redo a year to go to a new high school for the purpose of sports and leave my friends who I love and et cetera, I'd have told you you're absolutely insane. I would have cursed at you and never would have talked to you again. What are you talking about, leave my high school? So anyone that ever asks me about reclassing, I always say this. Are you happy with your high school? Do you like your teachers? Do you like your community? Do you like your friends? If you are, you're nuts for going anywhere. If you hate your high school and you're just miserable, reclass, not a bad idea. It's a free country. So I'm against a reclass unless it's certain situations. The post-grad, the gap year, the JUCO, I'm okay with. It makes more sense to me. You stayed with your high school, you stayed with your friends, you tried to win with your group that you grew up with, and then you take a different route to get to college. Now, my advice would be for most people doing that, have a logical reason for doing it. Either your grades are an issue, you're physically not developed, if you need to just grow and get bigger and stronger. My best advice for a kid to consider doing that is be told by a college coach, hey, we think you're okay as a 2024 grad, but if you were a 2025 grad, we have a spot for you. So I would want to be told by a coach, hey, we're just booked on the team here. We're just not ready to have, if you go take an extra year, we'll take you as the following year recruit. In that case, I go, yeah, I'll go to a JUCO, I'll do a gap year, I'll go do a post grad. But to put all your eggs in the basket, like, well, I'm not getting much attention now, I'll go do a post grad and everyone's going to start recruiting me, I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I believe exactly what you said, especially about the reclass. That to me, I don't get that. Okay. But here's my problem with the post grad. What my fear is that this is going to blow up just the way travel baseball has blown up. So I'm afraid that there's going to be all of these post grad academies coming out. Okay. And it's going to explode, and it's all a money making thing, because let's face it, a lot of these post grad schools, or again, academies, they call them, I think, they're not cheap.
Okay. That's it. You're bringing up a good question, because you're right. Trends happen, right? So I know 5 or 6 of those places that are those types of academies. And by the way, there's a good documentary on HBO about, it's called BS High. It happens to be, it's a kind of blowing up since it just got released. It's about a football thing that was kind of a high school scam, which is really just an interesting watch. But so I hope the baseball route doesn't go, the same way, because it is, you're right, money making. But I will say this. I don't know if this will help your cause that you're trying to make. I live in Connecticut. Your average post-grad school in the state of Connecticut is 60,000 plus. Okay. The P27s, the places like that are maybe a third of that price. Not IMG, but IMG's the creme de la creme of those places. So, right. But there's other gap years you could do. You could do an internship. You could get bigger and stronger. You could but again, I would do it with a justification. Some college coaches offered me, we like you, we just need you to be a year later, and then you could justify it. But to go there kind of hoping and not having any interest in a college coach, and just by going to this place it'll all start to happen, it's probably not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But like you said, though, you could take that time and that I don't see a problem with. If you took that year off, you went, you got bigger, faster, stronger on your own, maybe take a couple courses at the local junior college, and then see what happens from there. That I get. What I have the problem with is, like you said, with these academies that are starting, because I could smell it coming that, well, my son goes to, ABC Academy and, da. Well, now everybody's going to go there, and it's going to become a trend. And that I have a problem with that.
Yeah. My take on that would be, anything you do, ask people that have done it and see what they think. Like if you have 3 college offers and you're not sure where to go, talk to a kid on the team. Is he happy? Does he like it? Would he do it again before you make this big life decision? So if I was approached by an academy, I'd say, hey, listen, is there some players I can talk to find out what their experience is, or go visit the place and use your gut. Our guts are usually right when we go visit these places. So the couple of guys I know doing it seem to be genuinely good people, but you're right. I guess the 3 of us could start, the Clearing the Bases Academy tomorrow and start enrolling kids, I guess. And, maybe it'd be good, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know.
Oh, that's funny. So the next thing, and we're getting close to an hour, so I have 2 more questions that I want to go through. Dave, do you have anything that you want to go with?
Just the last thing, as a very experienced college coach and over such a long period of time, not saying you're old or anything, but
kind of.
I save those jokes for Jimmy. But Jimmy and I, one of the common themes, not just what we talk about, but a lot of the coaches that we speak to, whether they be high school coaches, college coaches, what have you, we talk about the decline of the fundamentals of players. Jimmy and I are both JV coaches. The decline of fundamentals when they get to us. So instead of us, almost think of it as college courses, instead of us being able to work on 300 level courses from day one of practice, we're working on 100 level courses because kids need to learn how to lead, or whatever the case may be. So you want to talk about, as a recruiter, can you think of what's the biggest flaw that you're seeing across the board in the players that are coming up in the most recent classes?
Oh, it's a really good question, because the game generally that's played in college is different, way different than travel, and still different than high school. So the biggest disconnect by far, I don't know if you've ever talked about this, is base hit bunting. So base hit bunting is a massive tool to get you recruited, to get you in the lineup in college. It's
not familiar with, most of our listeners are not familiar with that term, just so you know.
Well, and you just don't. So a lot of these kids that I'll work with, I'm like, hold on, you're telling me you're a center fielder and you run well. Are you a really good base hit bunter? Do you work at it like crazy? Well, no. Well, why the hell not? What are you, crazy? What's going on? So there is a disconnect in that type of thing. And one of the things I like about my style, and it sounds funny, but I am comfortable being a blend of old school and new school. I don't think the old school is just the right way. I don't think the new school is the right way. I think the middle is the right way. And to me, the middle is that the player is his own best coach. That's it. You want to be great? You're your own best coach. You listen to everybody. You decide what's right. You study video. You take ownership over your development. And if you do, then you learn all those things. You know about leads. You know about backing up bases. You could play any position on the field because you understand the concept of it. And I'm a big believer in that, frankly. I'm a big believer in, at the younger ages, kids moving around. That's how you learn. So to answer that question in a different way, I think the fundamentals are being lost because the only thing the kid does is go to practice, and whatever that coach teaches them is what they'll do. Well, where's coming early, staying late, doing it on your own to be a complete ball player? That's what's missing.
Yeah, and I love what you said about playing all positions. I don't think that players should start getting pigeonholed to a spot until pretty much till they reach where I am at the JV level. Anything before that, they should be playing right field, center field, left field, shortstop, second base. Try everything, because again, you never know. And again, you know this better than anyone else. It's very hard to project out where a 10-year-old kid is going to be,
Yeah, and here's such a great point. And I even go further and say this, that let's say I had a kid or work and he was on your team, and you say to this kid, listen, I don't think you're good enough in the infield. I think you're an outfielder for our team. I would say, go play outfield, go play with a coach tells you to play. But you know what? If you still want to be an infielder, No one told you couldn't stay after and take 150 ground balls. No one told, right? So
That's great.
it's so true. Like, what do you want to do and what do you want to be? Because, right, isn't Michael Jordan the most famous of all people that didn't make his varsity team at a certain age in high school? Like, who can measure someone's drive and work ethic and when kids develop? So, yeah, at Stepinac, guess what? You don't get to play the middle infield. Go play the outfield, do the best you can. But who knows? In 2 years, the coach could say, you're the best darn middle infielder I've ever seen. How did you do that? Well, I worked my ass off. That's how I did it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah, you're so right. I can't disagree with that. So let's start to wind this down a little bit with my last two questions that I want to get into. And I think I'm going to put them in this order. What are college coaches really looking for in a player?
Ooh, so I think probably put that into, and I guess I could ask what you're looking for. Are you looking for the overall thing, or do you want me to break it down into specifics of what maybe they're looking for from a pitcher and what they're looking for from a position player?
No,
or
overall. Assuming the player, you're looking for a middle infielder. His footwork is right. His arm strength is right. His timing is right. What are they looking for after that?
Okay.
Because they're looking at 7 kids that have that.
Okay. So let's go back to this. So back in my day of running a million camps, run a million prospect camps, right? The day is typically going to go where there's a part of the day which is a skills thing. So we're going to run the 60. You're going to take BP. You're going to take ground balls. We're going to measure your exit velo. We're going to do all the metrics and all that stuff. And then we're going to play games, right? And so ideally, the best player performs well in both segments, right? So you have some arm strength. You can run. You can do the thing. But then when the game comes, your bat finds the barrel of the ball. Many kids crush balls in BP and can't come close to hitting a curveball, right? So it's, can you do both things? And then ultimately, if you show well in that smaller sample, I want to either watch you more to see if you can continue to produce in games, or talk to the coaches that are with you every day and say, hey, am I seeing it right? Is this kid the kind of kid that we want in the program? Is he a worker? Is he respectful? Is he all these other things? So it's like, are the raw skills there? Can you actually produce in a game? And then what's the other things that I'm not going to be able to see in 1 day or 3 days and have to defer to the coach? So you're looking for all those things.
Could that be that intangible that you're talking about? Could that be summed up with character?
Character, work ethic. Your go 4 for 4, you're going to show up and work. Go 0 for 4, you're going to show up and work. You're a grinder. The baseball's a grinding. We know that. We know it's a marathon sport. Amount of games and practices and travel and certainly at the college level. I mean, certainly tournaments for high school kids and travel kids are long, but there's college weekends where you get to the field for a 9 o'clock BP and you leave the field at 8:30 at night when game 2 is over. And then you come back and do it the next day. And It's hot and it's cold. So the grinders is what you really want. So ideally the grinder's the good player, right? And so you're looking for both things.
Okay. And this is what I think is probably the most important thing for parents to know about the recruiting process. What should be the biggest factors when making a decision for a player?
Okay, so are we now saying that they've been through the process, they're actually being offered, they actually have choices, and you're saying, how do they make a decision on the choices?
Right.
Is that kind of the question you're
asking?
So
like we had talked about earlier, you got 5 schools. So you went through all of that. All 5 schools offered you. Okay. Now what do you do?
It's to me fairly easy, because you could do a spreadsheet and say which has the nicest campus, best for my academics, best baseball, the cost. You could do that, and that might help you. I think that's where you try to go test you try to talk to a professor. You try to see the cafeteria. You try to go look at the dorms. You try to talk to current players on the team. That maybe you talk to current parents of players on the team, because a coach is, it's funny, I'm laughing, where a coach that I know tells kids when he's recruiting, there's two versions of me. There's the recruiting version of me and the real version of me. And you should find out what both are like, because I'm not going to be this nice when you're on the team as I am when I'm recruiting you. So kids sometimes make a decision on, oh my God, that coach was really nice. And maybe they are, but maybe they're not as they portrayed themselves. So probably the single biggest factor to making that huge decision is I would talk to somebody in the shoes that I'm going to get myself into. Can I talk to a couple of kids and find out, are they happy with all aspects of the school? No school's perfect, but I would use some feedback to make that final decision.
I love that answer. That's a fantastic answer.
Wayne, if you have anything specific that you wanted to bring up, I know we touched on an awful lot of topics.
Yeah, I'll just give you one final thought. Hopefully it'll come across coherently, but I think kids need to really look at what do they really actually want in their life at that time. So in other words, some kid might actually want to play the guitar. He might actually want to act. He might actually want to play multiple sports. He might not want to play a sport. But because of parental pressure, or because he kind of gets in the system, well, I must want to play college baseball because my 5 friends do. So they're in the system and they go, I got to want that. Well, I don't know. If you don't absolutely love it, by the way, you could play high school and travel and not want to play in college, and just because you enjoy it and say, you know what, I don't want to play in college. I'm just loving it now. That's awesome. I think that's fantastic. But I had a kid once, I was doing a lot of lessons with, and he called me up. He said, I hate to break this to you, but I just decided that I really, really, really want to be a fireman, and I want to do everything that it takes to become a junior fireman in this. And I said, dude, you just figured out the key to life right there. Like, I am so happy for you. He goes, you can't tell. He goes, I can't tell you how relieved I am, because everyone else told me I was stupid and I was making a huge mistake. And you gave me the seal of approval, and so that would be like my parting. If baseball's your thing, go all in. But if it's not, there's other things. There's other things to do in life. And it doesn't mean that baseball has to be the be all end all.
Right. Yeah. It's, if it's not baseball, well, that's okay too. And it's funny because I actually dealt with that personally with my sister and my nephew. My nephew, very good high school player, played in Brookfield, Connecticut. My sister was so disappointed when he didn't want to play in college. And I said to my sister, what do you care? I said,
right. You went to college. You had your day. This is his time.
I said, it's he makes the decision, not you. I said, who's upset, him or you? I said, leave him alone. And, he's going to West Virginia now. As a matter of fact, he's going to study in Italy this semester, and God bless him.
God bless him. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's also, I do see it from the other side too, because now you start to look back and you go, especially, I hate to paint with a broad brush, but especially from the mom's perspective, how many freaking innings of baseball have I watched over the last 10 years to only have it just be done, just done like that. I could definitely see that. I had some of that with my boys when they stopped playing. I didn't put any pressure on them to keep going. I again, having gone through it myself, I know if you don't love it and you get to that point, you're going to hate it. That's just there's no you're not going to be so about your college schedule. There's no way. It's way too hard. Exactly. So I didn't put any extra pressure, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. And then part of it was the time, the money, the emotional toll that we went through, and it was just no, right.
But they'll find their way, and they'll be happy with something else, and you'll fall into that. Whatever.
Well, right. But in the moment, you go back and you go, let's see, how many vacation days did I have to burn in Flemington, New Jersey?
Yes, great Flemington.
For those that know, my favorite stadium or favorite facility in the Northeast, anyway, that I went to, but. Yeah, it's I definitely see it from that aspect of it.
Yes.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate you spending the time with us tonight. We know everybody's time is valuable, so even just taking an hour or so out of your evening really means a lot to us and our listeners. We know we covered a lot of different topics. You were a wealth of information. I think this was a great show, and really appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us here. Why don't you go ahead and give our people any contact information that you want to have? How do they get in touch with you? They want to talk to you about advice on recruiting and kind of keeping tabs on you to see where you wind up next.
Sure. On the social media, it's either Coach Maz or Coach Maz Baseball with 2 Z's. And then I've made my email the easiest email that could humanly be possible. It's wayne@waynemazzoni.com. So if you could figure out how to spell my name, that's how to get to me. And the reality is, what I do is tell people the truth. So when anyone connects with me, and I might say that, listen, I don't think you're good enough to play in college, or you're not good enough to play at the level that you want. I might sometimes be the first honest, feedback that they hear, but that's what I promise. I'll be as honest as possible if people are just kind of looking to know where they stand in the whole process.
Always been my mantra, be brutally honest.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Coach. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I mean, the way we connected was kind of a little, we'll say, unorthodox compared to the way that we usually get guests on the show. And I'm just so glad that Kara sent me that email. And this, like Dave said, this was a great show. So I just want to thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be on. And I looked at, your history of people that are on. I know a lot of them, and I certainly will follow and listen to future episodes as well.
Oh, great. New listener, Dave.
That's it. We had one a day. We're in good shape.
All right, Coach. So thanks again, and we'll stay in touch and hope to see you sometime.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So that was Wayne Mazzoni. What do you think, Coach?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, we touched on so many things that are so important for people to understand, from, pitching mechanics to college recruiting to post-grad to JUCO. I mean, it was fantastic.
Yeah, the main thing that I wanted to just follow up on is we've spoken before, and I guess it was mostly myself, some of the hypocrisy we've seen from some of these teams, there's travel programs where we talk about loyalty being a one-way street, and always preaching about being loyal to the team, making sure you're showing up to all the practices and blah, 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 blah. And then a player who gets recruited onto the team who's slightly better than you or your kid, as the case may be. And all of a sudden that loyalty is out the window. You're not necessarily getting cut, but your playing time's getting cut. Your attention is getting cut. In a lot of cases, obviously, I'm never saying 100% across the board. There's people that do it great. So now the whole thing with the portal seems to be the coaches getting a little bit of a taste of how that can go.
Yeah, but the portal can be a bad thing also for the player. It depends on the situation. So, yeah, I understand that, the coach has to be on his toes so that he doesn't lose his player. And I think loses players, I think that's what you were talking about. But if a player leaves, it could also have an adverse effect on him.
Oh, absolutely. The grass isn't always greener, for one thing. You get to the new school, and it turns out, there's also other new players that came into that school.
Right.
So yes, and then the whole thing, and again, not that everybody necessarily does it this way, but Coach Mazzoni did say about, if you want to enter the portal, you enter the portal, but you're essentially giving up your spot. Now, maybe you can get your spot back if they don't fill it, but you are giving up your spot.
Right. And
there is certainly the risk there.
And I would think that in that case, that might leave a little, we'll call it bad blood between the coach and the player. Hey, you left. All right, I'm going to take you back because I need you, but I'm not happy about it. That type of thing.
Yeah, I don't know, jilted lover syndrome. I don't know if there's any way around. We can all say, I wouldn't do that. I love all my players, blah, blah, blah. But it's human nature. That's a little too hard to fight, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too. So, yeah, the portal, I'm glad that we got into it a bit because it is let's face it, I guess it's the new thing, and it's going to be around. It's not going away. So he brought up a lot of good points about that.
Yeah, and it brought a flashback. It's kind of funny, the example that he gave of a player going to Villanova and then transferring out someplace else just brought us back to friend of the show and Mets prospect Nick LaRusso was on with us a couple of shows ago, just drafted this year. That was exactly what he did. He was with Villanova, and I think it was probably, this has got to be more rare, where he didn't leave for a better playing opportunity. He was super stud on that team. He left because he didn't feel like the team was good enough for him.
Yeah.
Which, again, I got to believe that's way in the minority.
Yeah, I would imagine it is. And again, it's a bit of a risk on his part, because maybe, a college like Maryland doesn't see it that way. He sees that, well, he's a big fish in a small pond, but here it's going to be the opposite.
Right. That's the perfect analogy, the perfect age-old kind of saying when it comes to that. And it just so happened, and I'm a big believer, not just in baseball and sports, but in life, gambling on yourself, if you're truly that dedicated, and of course, God-given basic talents, genetics and whatever else. And he bet, and it paid off huge for him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it was a great look. Let me put it to you this way. If I had to sum up everything that we spoke about with Coach Mazzoni, I would sum it up this way, is now more than ever, it's really important that you do your homework.
Well, expand on that. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's so many different ways to go, okay? We spoke about reclassing. We spoke about, taking a post-grad year. We talked about junior colleges. We talked about the transfer portal, getting into it, getting picked up, not getting picked up. There's just so many facets to it where, maybe years ago, don't get me wrong, you had to do your homework then also. It's just that now, instead of your homework being a 1 hour homework, now you have a 4 hour homework that you have to do.
In a bunch of different classes.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And things keep changing and evolving. So the players and the players' parents have to as well, otherwise you get left behind. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and I mean, we could also look at it this way. If you go back 100 years ago when we were teenagers, high school baseball age, you played high school baseball. You hope you were good enough so that a college came and looked at you and picked you up. And that was pretty much it, unless I'm wrong, unless there was something else going on. And I don't remember, maybe you played a little Legion ball and had a little bit more exposure there. Think about what these kids are going through these days with showcases, travel tournaments, high school coach, all of this stuff.
Right. Sending videos out.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we couldn't do that, obviously.
Yeah. So, no, it's a good point, as, and we do talk about all the time, is just as coaches being open to learn and changing your methodologies. Obviously, again, the players, the whole recruiting process has to change. And then apparently it doesn't end with, hey, I'm going to this school. Because now it's that much easier to, I guess it always existed, as you said, in terms of being able to change schools, but not having to lose a year is, that's night and day.
Absolutely.
So many people would be so afraid of losing a year. You only get 4, or maybe in some cases 5. I still don't fully understand the whole red shirt thing, but so you say, you get 4 years, so to lose 1. That's you talk about an enormous risk that very few people played around with that.
Yeah, it was, let's face it, it was very rare that you heard that somebody transferred from one school to another. Right. I only could remember of very, very few certain instances. Wherever you went, you were, I don't want to say stuck, but you were stuck.
Right. So now that looking forward has to continue really throughout your career until you get to that senior year.
Yeah. So, I'll be honest with you, Dave. I could have sat there and talked to him all night about this stuff. The conversation just kept going and going, and actually the length of the show is going to prove that, because there was just so much to talk about.
So as much as we feel like we didn't get everything out of Coach Mazzoni with this one shot deal that we did, you could certainly tell that he believes in giving it 100% effort at all times, positive mental attitude at all times, and that's how great things happen. Final thoughts, Coach?
Yeah, I think that the college baseball recruiting world has changed so much, and it's become very difficult for people, whether you're a high school player going into college or even when you're a college player. There's so many things that you have to be aware of. And I think that Coach Mazzoni put everything into perspective for our listeners. So maybe it'll make this whole process maybe a little easier for everyone. And not if it doesn't necessarily make it easier, then at least you're aware of what can happen and how this system works. So when you're getting ready for your college experience, do your homework and find a coach that you know understands that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.